All right. So I know Twain bid his farewell and everything, but I thought we'll just take some time just to jump in here quickly and maybe drop a few FAQs, a few questions here and there regarding the entire course so far.
Yeah,
Just in case there's anything that anybody's missing out, we will just I've just got a few questions that I'm going to drop here. Some of them is basically just reminding people of things that we covered in the earlier modules, and then others will be hopefully pertaining to what we just spoke about here. So
yeah.
let's just jump into them. So without boring the people here. All right. So you mentioned holiday eating and training, right? To
Hmm.
have a strategy for that. What is your kind of like go-to for that? If I'm planning on going on a holiday, what is like a default strategy that a person can use?
Well, a default strategy that I would recommend, honestly, for holiday purposes um is first of all on the nutritional side of things. Most of the time where people tend to travel for holidays might not necessarily have very good protein options, especially if you're traveling, let's say, around in Southeast Asia. Although I think that's also changing slowly. Now, protein options tend to be a lot more available in convenience stores and stuff. But one key tip here I can give is to bring along protein powder. Honestly, like just pack along some protein powder because most of the time you can easily have one protein shake in the morning to start your day, and you will get that protein injection coming in. Your stomach will be nice, well and settled, and then you can head out and slowly, mindfully enjoy yourself with all the different types of foods. Um, so that's one thing about the nutritional side of things, just to make it easier. The other one is to actually bring along some psyllium husk as well. So this is another tip that I give a lot of my clients just because it is very useful for them to help with potentially travel constipation, which I think quite a fair amount of my clients seem to have. And mostly it tends to be the females that seem to have it. I'm not too sure why, it just seems to be the case, but that can be very helpful. So having some psyllium husk as well would be useful. The other one would be, let's say, if you have hotel breakfasts and things of that nature. Again, it's up to you to decide whether or not it's worth it for you. I think for the most part, many of my clients don't find hotel breakfasts particularly worth the value. So they usually opt out of it and tend to go for more local breakfast styles and foods and things like that. I do think there are certain, like, obviously I'm from Singapore, so there are certain like nice hotels in Singapore where they have really good international breakfast buffets and things like that of the nature where the intention really is to go there and to eat that. So that's a totally different thing. But for most people when they're traveling around, usually for my corporate clients especially, if they're going for a trip, they don't usually eat a hotel breakfast because it's not anything super special, and they usually will have client meetings towards the end of the day, more often than not meeting clients for dinner, things like that. So they rather save their calories for that. So again, this is where bringing some protein powder along can be super useful. Or if you want to go to the hotel breakfast, just grabbing as much fruit as you can from there, having some egg whites or something of that nature, probably will be a good idea. Yeah, so that's all on the nutritional front. For the exercise part of things, for most people that go on a holiday, I would say that if it's not a resorty beach, lie on the beach side and by the pool and just like sleep the whole day kind of deal, then you probably won't really need to worry about getting your workouts in. Many of my clients that actually work out while on holiday do so because number one, they enjoy it. It's part of their regime that like makes them feel good, so they make time for it. And number two, they usually will try to plan it such that they have access to equipment. They'll buy the book a hotel that has a proper gym, or they will, maybe they have like an Anytime Fitness membership, where they have a hotel that has that Anytime Fitness gym nearby. So I don't think particularly you need to go and work out, unless you know that this holiday you're going to be like really sedentary. Because for most people, I think they actually are more active on a holiday than they are in regular day-to-day life. So, for example, I have many clients that come back. Recently, I had a couple clients that come back from Japan, another one from Taiwan, and on their trips, they were clocking, I think, like an average of about 19,000 steps, anywhere between, yeah, around 19,000, almost 20,000. So many of the most of the time when people are on holiday, they actually walk a lot more
Mm,
compared to their usual 10K, which is funny to say they're only 10K, which is a lot already in and of itself. Yeah.
yeah.
So most people don't have to worry too much about, being active on a holiday. Yeah, but if you do find that you're going to be sedentary, hey, have some workouts planned. Again, some easy home workouts will be a good idea. If you are not sure what type of gym you will have access to, if you even have access to one.
Okay. All right. For those that do take the advice and take protein powder with you, do take care as to how you pack your protein powder, and don't be like the one
Wow.
influencer that got stopped at immigration where people thought he was smuggling in cocaine.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess that also bears some sort of a disclaimer on like whatever country you're flying to or
Yeah.
going to, you could probably want to check their laws. I can tell you I've traveled over to many different places, and so far I've had no issues bringing a whole packet of protein powder along. I usually put it in my, and most of the time I actually put it in my carry-on. You know, but you can definitely put it into your check-in, and you should be fine. In terms of packing it, I would say if you're going to put it into a Ziploc bag, maybe double bag the Ziploc. The protein powder that I use comes in its own bag already, so I put that bag into a Ziploc just for safety's sake. But yeah, it's not too complicated. Uh,
Okay.
you know, yeah, basic packing
All
stuff.
right. So then the next one would be is that when you're looking at your macros, right?
Hmm.
Depending on where you are in your journey, are your macros based on your current weight or on your goal weight?
Are you talking about the calories or the actual macro targets itself?
Yeah, so it would be calories, but then we usually break it into the macros down. But yeah, let's look at calories.
Yeah, so if you're talking about calories, usually I recommend based on your goal weight because if you talk about goal weight, most of the time people are that's only applicable for if you're trying to lose weight. Yeah, and I think this entire course for most people, no one is trying to gain any weight. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a bit more of a specific situation. So yeah, for calories wise, look at the goal weight. So the goal weight, whatever it is, and then multiply that by I think what's the multiplication factor? I think 25 if you want to be conservative. If you're gonna be really aggressive, 20 is where the bottom limit is. We would recommend to start. Yeah.
Okay. So then you touched on portion control in the wrap up over here. And you mentioned the ones like the plate method and the hand method.
Yes.
What are your personal thoughts on that, and which would you advise if people want to go that route?
Uh, I would say that using the hands method probably works better than the plate method just because a lot of the people I deal with don't necessarily build their plate like in the kind of format. They tend to either eat out or they would be yeah, most of the time they tend to eat out. So I think the hands method works a lot better for eating out where you can say, okay, how I teach people, because a lot of my clients tend to be around the Southeast Asian region, and they don't have access to as westernized foods as possible. So we use the fist and we use the palm. So the fist is for anything that is not protein. Okay, so it could be fried noodles, fried rice, whatever is non-protein per se, some desserts even, um, and then fruits and veg as well. And then the palm size is going to be for actual protein itself. So we use those as a way to kind of gauge roughly how much to eat. And for most of the clients, I would say the protein amounts they want to try to aim for is anywhere between 1.5 pounds of protein to 3 pounds of protein per meal. Yeah. The amount of non-protein options, uh, we want to always make sure there's at least one fiber component, so one fist size of a fiber component. Again, that's like you grab a handful of fruits, you get a handful of grapes, a handful of veggies or something of that nature as well. And then that will be like the basis of their meal. And then from there, they can decide, should I add in some non-protein options? So potentially, if the proteins that they were eating are are more fatty proteins, they're not super lean, they might not actually eat that much more non-protein foods just because they already had a decent amount of calories coming from those other foods. But this way, they don't really have to track. They just have to make a bit more conscious decision when they're eating. But these conscious decisions are not ones that are super intensive on the brain. And by that point in the journey, you're quite intuitive with what you want to eat, and you would already have your own structure, where we always emphasize, and I think this was on module 4, no, module 3. We talked about planning your own nutrition planning, where you have a certain structure, 70-80% of the time, those are the meals you rotate between, and they already have like a certain amount to them. So if you're already rotating between that, it's pretty much easier already when you're in maintenance.
Okay. The next one is like if I'm just starting out and capturing data is a little big chore.
Yeah.
So which tracking method would you recommend the person then focus on? You mentioned a couple, right? Best, it would be brilliant if you could do all, but if you really don't have the time to do the tracking, as some people always say,
Yeah.
then which one should you be focusing on? Would it be weight? Would it be measurements? Would it be visual?
You're talking starting out as
Starting out on
in
the weight loss journey.
okay, okay.
So let's
Well,
say let's say all they're doing at the moment is they've increased their steps. They haven't even started anything else yet.
yeah, I would say if you're at the beginning of your weight loss journey, you probably want to track your weight. Um, that makes the most sense to do so. Yeah, because likely you actually have weight to lose, and that would probably make more sense for you to then measure against. But the key thing to take note here is you want to make sure you are tracking the average, right? You want to make sure you're tracking average weight,
Yep.
and you are not allowing yourself to kind of get too affected by the day-to-day fluctuation. Yeah,
Mm.
so that's probably the first topmost priority. The other one to add on, honestly, will not take too much effort. It's just measure your waist. Just take a measuring tape, put it on your toilet, and then just measure your waist. Yeah. Do it once a week. That's all you need to do. Once a week, maybe at the end of the weekend, at the end of the weekday might be great. So let's say on the Saturday morning maybe, or Friday morning, depends when you usually go out to have big social dinners. For most people, it's like, yeah, Friday morning might be the best. Then, Friday night, Saturday night tends to be when they might go out and stuff.
Okay.
So take a waist measure, then you should be good.
Right.
And then just use that, just track that. Because sometimes your weight's not going to go down. In fact, sometimes your weight might fluctuate up a little
Mm.
bit even as you are sizing down.
All right. So with regards to the weight tracking,
Yeah.
is there a best time to actually weigh yourself in the day?
Oh, yeah. Always weigh yourself first thing in the morning after you've gone to the toilet. Now, I know not everybody uh, fully evacuates their bowels in the morning. Uh, but it doesn't really matter because if that's consistent for you, then you're still going to measure any changes, anyway. So don't worry too much about it. Yeah, even though I say it like this, also I'm very well aware that when you actually measure your weight, there's always going to be some emotion that pops in. There's always going to be this feeling of like, I know I should not be obsessed with it, but I can't help but feel that maybe I'm not making progress, right? And I think at that point, it's just important to recognize that. Recognize that that's what's happening, and then you can kind of talk yourself out of it and be like, okay, cool, but let me just continue with my plan. I know it's gonna work. Um, but yeah, first thing in the morning when you have gone to the toilet will be the best because they'll be the most consistent, they'll be your most empty, and anything else will not be very reliable. Because immediately after that, if you eat breakfast and then you go and weigh yourself, now your breakfast is in you and that extra weight as well. Especially if you go and weigh yourself. I've had people where they weigh themselves like morning and then they go and weigh themselves after dinner at night. And then they are like, oh no, I gained, 1.5 kilos. I'm like, of course you did. Like you have to take into account all the meals you ate throughout the day. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
So yeah. So
And also
don't
not discounting the liquid that you drank.
yeah. So
All
please
right.
don't do that, man.
All right. Final question. You touched upon also doing phases in your maintenance or leading to a maintenance. Like if you're doing weight loss, you have 40 kilos, the example you gave.
Oh yes,
You
yeah.
have 40 kilos to lose 20, take a break, and then move on.
Mm.
When looking to plan out these kind of phases, is it always a goal weight that you should push towards, or is there also maybe a time factor that comes into play in order to successfully plan these kind of phases as you work your way down to your goal weight? Does it make sense the way I phrased the question, or
Now, maybe, wait, not too
so
sure.
you're starting off at 40 kilos that you need to
Yep,
lose, right?
yep,
So as you want to go on this journey, would it be right to say I just want to lose 10 kilograms at a time and I'm going to go through four phases?
yeah.
Or would it be is like, okay, I would like to lose 10 kilograms, but I will actually diet 2 weeks at a time?
Oh, okay, I get what you mean. Well, honestly, I would choose the principle of the latter. So I would say you could plan it out. It's like 10 kilos kind of thing,
Mm.
but it's never like it's honestly not gonna play out like that.
Yeah.
It's most likely not going to. Okay. So you don't want to get too obsessed with, I think the main point of saying that is that you don't want to get too obsessed with 40 kilos I gotta lose. Because when you look at I gotta lose 40 kilos, you end up trying to force the process a lot more than working the process. Yeah. So it's the same in any other pursuit. If we just keep looking only at the outcome, we'll try to achieve the outcome by any means necessary, which oftentimes is not the best way to do so.
Mm.
Yeah. So when you're approaching this from that perspective, like I have a lot of weight to lose, you have to say like, what are the simplest things I can change that will give me the most return? And then I think that concept of like looking at it from a smaller perspective of like, let's look every 2 weeks. Let's just see, can I lose maybe if you have 40 kilos to lose, you have a lot of weight to lose, right? So let's say every 2 weeks losing a kilo. Doesn't sound too aggressive. Well, every 1 month you're going to lose like two, 2 kilos, let's say for example. Yeah. That sounds very doable for a lot of people. So maybe look at it from that perspective and then go. Because if you do it that way, while it might be a bit slower, it might actually end up being such that it feels so sustainable that you might already pull off 20, 30 kilos before you even get to the last 10 kilos. And the way weight loss works is it's not equal. That's why you can't plan it. I lose these 10 kilos, then I lose the next 10 kilos, lose the next 10 kilos, that kind of thing. It's not linear. The difficulty increases almost exponentially the lighter you get because your body starts to adjust and you have less room to play around with and you need to do more and more and more things to push your body out of that zone to force itself to lose more weight. So if you have 40 kilos to lose, you want to approach it from that perspective of let's go easy and let's go with like the big simple things that I can really do to change first. Yeah. And then once you and just see how long that runs you. If it reaches a point where you feel like I'm very fatigued out, I feel like I'm developing too much of a food focus. I'm thinking a lot about food, way too much and all this sort of stuff. Then you might want to say, okay, maybe I'm dieting a bit too much. Let me take a break from it, recalibrate a bit, and then go into the next part. It's a bit harder. So all this advice I'm giving is so general because it really depends on the individual basis. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the principle is still there. In- I think, and I'm advising this from a very practical, pragmatic perspective. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I think we've come to a close.
All right.
So, uh, I hope you found this course useful. I hope it inspires you. If it hasn't already, I hope it inspires you to start your fitness journey. If you started it in the beginning and you've progressed this whole time as you've gone along, and you're reaching your goals, as Twain said earlier, congratulations to you. And we hope that this is going to be a new lifestyle that you're going to continue to be successful on. If you have any questions, drop it down in the comments below. If you feel like you might still need some help to really push yourself on this journey, we do have the coaching service that you can sign up for. The link will also be in the description below. And you can book a call with Twain, a no obligation, free call that you can just have a chat and see if your goals can align and if you'll work well together and how he can help you also achieve your goals. Other than that, I think we would wish you all the best on your journey as you go forward.
Yeah.
And we'll see you hopefully to keep on moving.
I'll see you guys.
All right. Bye bye.
All the best.